Hey, what's up? It's time for a skeptical reaction. Today we are looking at the debate between Alex O'Connor and Dinesh D'Souza, or more specifically, just a portion of it. This is when they're talking about the genocide of the Amalekites, things like slavery, some of these moral issues that pertain to the Bible. Now, Alex has gained a lot of popularity over the past few years as an atheist voice. Now, Dinesh D'Souza has been fairly popular amongst apologists. You see him from 10, 15 years ago debating some of the most intelligent atheist minds. And he seems to have gone away and then sprang back up. Strangely, I started to notice him come back around Trump's first term. Now, he strangely, in this debate, seems to be much more ill-prepared than he ever has been. I mean, this debate has gotten a lot of popularity, and not for good reasons. It seems to have gotten really popular because you're watching Alex O'Connor just demolish Dinesh D'Souza, and you can see that there's this frustration with Alex, and you're going to see it at the beginning of this clip. And Alex, it seems, I've been watching quite a few of his videos, and he doesn't seem to get very frustrated easily, but you can see him getting frustrated here, and it seems to be because Dinesh is just so dishonest with his arguments that it's clearly showing on Alex's expressions. But let's take a look at Alex and Dinesh talking about the slaughter of the Amalekites.
There's nothing quick about what you're doing, Dinesh. There's nothing quick about what you're doing. I need to be allowed to respond to what you're saying. I'm getting sick whenever
you're cross-examining me on the justice of smiting the Amalekites. Honestly, I don't see any justice in it, but I do agree that that was the eye for an eye ethical.
So right away, Dinesh is giving his defense of the Bible and this genocide by saying that, this seems wrong to me, but this is the Old Testament and the New Testament is what matters. The New Testament message is the part that actually matters for believers. And, in the Old Testament, there is this eye for an eye sort of feeling towards it, and God was just dealing with things differently here. The problem is that this is sort of flip-flopping, and when it comes to the New Testament, there is nothing in the New Testament that actually says that anything from the Old Testament is wrong. And so while this might seem immoral to us now, and we want to focus on the New Testament now, it doesn't actually do anything to condemn any of God's past orders, any of the actions that were taken during this time. And so this is the problem that a lot of atheists like myself have trouble with, because if this is an unchanging God, if this is a perfect God who has always been the same, then why is the message so different in the New Testament? But we have to accept that things in the Old Testament, that was just the morality of that time. God should be able to bring about change. It should be able to say, hey, this is wrong. This is what is generally considered to be correct because this is during war times, this is during a tribal age, whatever it might be, such as genocide and slavery. But at the end of the day, this is wrong. These are the orders that I'm giving. I don't want you to take slaves. I don't want you to commit genocide. But God does it in the Old Testament, and we're supposed to accept that it was done in the Old Testament because we have the New Testament now. This isn't an argument for whether these things were actually moral or not.
That is repudiated and transformed and transfigured in the new.
I've had this conversation so many times, most recently with William Lane Craig. At least he had the gall to just tell me that, yes, that was a moral thing for God to do. I get sick to death of people hand-waving away this genocide by some vague reference to the fact that Jesus came along to do something which somehow kind of undoes the immorality of it.
So Alex is 100% right here. There are Christian apologists over the years who have said all kinds of things about the immorality of the Old Testament. And at the very least, there are some, like William Lane Craig, who will say, yes, this is what happened. This is what God commanded. And here's why it was actually moral. Or an apologist who might say, you know what? This did happen. God did command this. I don't know why he commanded it, but I hope to one day find out when I go to heaven. At the very least, there's some respectable idea here that says, you know what, this is a big deal. This is actually something that happened, and I feel very opposed to it, and I'm not too sure how to take it. That at least has some kind of honesty to it. But to say, you know what, these things, they just don't matter because this was the Old Testament, these were just the times, and you just got to take the times into account. I've heard this so many times, and it just does not account for anything.
Like, this is not an eye for an eye. This is a genocide of combatant men, innocent women, and children, and animals. Saul is punished by God for not killing all of the animals. Like
That is actually a ludicrous misreading of what's happening
let me just
with
make
Saul
a,
and David.
Yes, the classic "you're not reading it right" argument. You just don't understand the Bible. You don't understand Scripture. You should study more. This is not the message that all of these other Christians get when they read the Bible. Well, maybe it has something to do with the fact that you're already a Christian. You already have this acceptance of the Bible being full of love and grace and forgiveness and all of these different things, where you can easily, like Alex says, hand wave away all of the things that are immoral, especially that is in the Old Testament. And Alex is bringing up that this specific instance, if God is unchanging and loving and perfectly moral, then why is he giving these orders? And Dinesh's best argument is, look, that really doesn't matter, because that's just not the message that people get from the Bible.
A just war tradition, according to which the slaughter of women and children is out of bounds. Prior to Christianity, no one thought this. Everybody did it, and everybody today does it everywhere in the world, and we do it too. The bombing of Dresden, the bombing of Hamburg, Hiroshima and Nagasaki, the incineration of women and children is the normal course of war. I just watched a
So this is so ridiculous, because Dinesh says that Alex is blind to the irony of what he's saying, when all Alex is doing is reading the text. This is in the Bible. And Dinesh is saying that, this is crazy what you're saying. Yes, it is crazy what he's saying, because it's coming out of a crazy book.
Q&A.
All right.
We might have some time.
Christianity invented the just war tradition, according to which the slaughter of women and children is out of bounds. Prior to Christianity, no one thought this. Everybody did it, and everybody today does it everywhere in the world, and we do it too. The bombing of Dresden, the bombing of Hamburg, Hiroshima and Nagasaki, the incineration of women and children is the normal course of war.
Yes, of course people did these things, and of course people still do them today. And if that's the argument you're going to make, then you can no longer use the very common argument that the Bible is inspired by God because it goes against all of man's desires. I've heard that countless times, and if you're going to say this, that this is just what people did in those times, then why is it that God he never speaks out against these things? He never specifically says, look, don't own slaves. Look, don't commit genocide and mass atrocities. No, he specifically orders these things. And this is the issue that Alex is taking here. It's not that people did these things once upon a time and still do these things even today. Of course there's war. Of course there's genocide. Of course there's immorality. But God should have, if he is a perfect God, he should have spoken out against it and not ordered it to be done.
So what I'm getting at is
that everybody does it.
It is not ethical. It is not. But I'm simply saying, Alex, that you are a product of the Christian morality that repudiates it now. You're standing on a Christian mountain and acting like, whoa, look at these Christians. They taught you to talk like this.
Dinesh, these people did not teach me to think like that.
They did.
These people were listening to their God who was telling them to slaughter innocent women and
right.
children.
The ancient Israelites were. But the ancient Israelites are not what taught you. What taught you is the 1,000-year tradition of the early Christian church,
which came a bit too late for the Amalekites.
Here's where Christian morality says nothing about this situation, because Christian morality has developed over time. It was never instructed by a divine being. Never once in the Bible does it say that these things are wrong. It never condemns these actions. We have just grown as a society, as a species, to look at these actions and say, these are things that we shouldn't do. And both secular people and Christians will be in agreement with these things because we've all evolved our mindset and our morals and our ethics to be in line to be against genocide and to be against slavery. And some people still aren't, but most of us are.
Too late for the Amalekites, to be sure.
Were the Israelite armies not instructed by the God that you believe in?
They were instructed by God.
And they were instructed to do things which you would now consider to be immoral, yes?
Absolutely.
So God has commanded them to do something which you now consider to be immoral, whether or not you consider it to be immoral because of the later developments of Christian ethics. God himself has told us that we must abandon our intuition that the slaughter of women and children, and by the way, when it's unnecessary in those instances to slaughter them,
I don't view it that way.
So this is where belief in God really gets scary, because most people are good people. Most people don't want to slaughter children. But if God is the absolute moral being, he is the highest level of morality, and God himself tells you to slaughter children, then that's what you must do. And you shouldn't, because we are these small beings that don't understand morality the way that God does, then you would just do it because he tells you to, and you don't need to question it. And this is scary because really every believer, if they really believe, they are just one Jesus vision away from slaughtering children. Look, at the end of the day, if God orders it, it must be done, and it must be good. This is cult behavior at its finest. Look, if you want to see the full debate, which I highly recommend doing, go to Pangburn's channel. The full debate is posted there along with a bunch of different clips. And if you want to see more of this content, please like and subscribe.